Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
Thanks again for joining me here at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 48. Well, it is a short week here again at the Back of the Range. As you all know, Thanksgiving is upon us. It is my favorite holiday other than Masters Sunday, but that's just a given. Wow, I just got a great idea. Imagine having a traditional Thanksgiving dinner right before watching the final round of the Masters. All right, I'm going to do that. If you want to come over next year, email me. I'll give you my address. Bring a dish. Don't show up empty-handed. Don't be a savage. We'll get this done. Anyways, quickly, thank you very much for your support of this podcast. Every week we get more listeners, more guests lined up. It's hard to believe that the year is almost over, but we are already planning for season 2 of the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. Just a handful of episodes left this year before I'm taking a week off, and then we're going to do it all over again. Weekly episodes every week, again in 2019. I want to hit on a couple things really quickly, and then we're going to get started with this week's episode. The USGA just released the names of the amateurs that they are inviting to the Walker Cup practice session here in South Florida next month. I was not on that list. I'll give you a minute to recover from that shocking news. A couple guys that have been invited, well, Cole Hammer, our guest last week. Matt Parziale, the 2017 U.S. Mid-Am champ. He was on episode 40. And Stuart Hagestad. He is the 2016 U.S. Mid-Am champ. I think you see where I'm going here. He is going to join us for our final episode of Season 1 on December 19th. So stay tuned for that. Best of luck to all the guys that were invited. You know who you are. You know we love amateur golf around here, so don't be surprised if you see more of these U.S. Walker Cuppers on the podcast next year. All right, the other thing, the towels. Yes, I've gotten your emails and all your messages on social media. We're out of towels. But don't worry, we have some more currently being printed up, should be arriving in the next couple weeks. How do you get a towel? Well, leave a review in Apple Podcasts. One recent review from WWF Guru, who gave us 5 stars and then highly recommends us and says that the intros are sometimes lengthy. Shit. All right. Well, I should have read that. No big deal. Anyway, WWF Guru, we will do what we can about shortening up these intros. If you're still listening to us so far, though, send me an email and give me your address because I need to at least send you a towel for putting up with all these lengthy intros. So anyway, leave a comment, share it with your friends, get the word out on social media. I will hook you up with a free towel. That is what we do around here. So remember, we're on Instagram, the Back of the Range Podcast. That's where you're going to find all the upcoming information about guests and giveaways. If you haven't done so, please subscribe there. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. All that information is in the show notes of this episode of the podcast. If you can't remember all that, remember this, thebackoftherange.com. That will give you all the information you need. All right. Our guest this week is Garrett Barber. He is a freshman at LSU. If you remember last week's episode with Cole Hammer, you'll remember that these two guys teamed up and won the 2018 U.S. 4-Ball at Jupiter Hills earlier this year. Garrett just got back from playing in his first PGA Tour event, the 2018 RSM Classic. This episode was recorded before the tournament, so you'll hear his thoughts on the event, life at LSU, and his experience participating in the Junior President's Cup last year. So let's get started. Garrett, thanks so much for joining us here at the Back of the Range. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So, we just had Cole Hammer on, your U.S. 4-Ball championship teammate. We had him on previously, so we might be asking you some of the same questions that we're asking him. But hey, you're USGA champion, so it comes with the territory. Tell me a little bit about, before we get into how you got into golf and all the things that you're doing right now at LSU. The one thing that I wanted to ask you about is you came into LSU from the Pine School in Hobe Sound, Florida, and I'm going to throw a couple numbers at you: 375, and then 5,624. So 375 was the total enrollment of your entire school, K through 12 at the Pine School, and you're walking into the 4th largest freshman class in LSU history at over 5,600 students. How are you coping with that right now?
Well, it's been definitely a big change. Sitting in a lecture hall with 200, 300 kids as opposed to a class with 12.
Okay.
But it hasn't been too difficult because our team is pretty close, so we are able to kind of keep each other in check, and if we're struggling with anything, we help each other out. So having the team around me has been really helpful in adjusting to it.
I mentioned Hobe Sound, Florida. Are you a native Floridian?
Yes. Well, I've lived there since I was about 10. I moved there from Washington, D.C.
So, how
Yeah.
did you get into the game of golf? It's kind of a typical question we ask all the guests, just to kind of level set, give people an idea how you got introduced to the game. I love hearing these different stories. I hear all sorts of them. So, tell me how you were introduced into the game of golf.
Well, actually, I was watching it on TV. I'm not exactly sure who I was watching, but I was watching on TV. And so I saw on TV, wanted to start playing when I was about 3 years old, and just kind of banged balls around the house with plastic clubs.
Okay,
And then
mom loved that, I'm sure.
Yeah. I broke a few windows in the backyard when I got older. But yeah, so it just kind of grew from there.
So I guess, I'm looking at a lot of your accomplishments. You're, junior player of the year, first team Rolex Junior All-American. You dominated an AJGA. You have a lot of accolades. When did you start getting an idea in junior golf that you were a little bit different than the other kids you were playing golf with? Do you remember kind of when that might have clicked and you kind of looked around and, not in an arrogant way, obviously, but you just look around and you're like, I'm a little further along than some of my friends.
Yeah, I think one time I played the 2015 Wyndham Cup,
Sure.
where that was a team that had a lot of really good class of 2015 players, and I was one of the youngest kids on that team. And so like Sam Burns was on that team, Brad Dahlke were on the West team, and so when I kind of was on that team, I realized that I was kind of definitely at the top for my age and one of the top kids of the country at that point. And then, kind of 2016, 2017 kind of didn't play as well as I hoped. But once I kind of came around to my senior year, I started playing really well.
Sure.
And so when I started winning, when I won my the Rolex Tournament of Champions, and then kind of went on a little bit of a roll, I kind of just kind of felt like I was back to where I felt I was in 2015.
One of the things that I really did find interesting with Cole's episode is that I'm going to probably find very interesting with yours is that you have this great success in junior golf where you're pretty much at the top of the list with just a handful of other guys. And now you're thrust into college golf where you're just, kind of moving up a level, and then it's a whole different playing field.
Yeah.
So, you're in class, you're in school, it's all about the grades. What kind of grade would you give yourself for your first semester of college golf?
I've kind of over the summer I kind of struggled. So I've spent this fall kind of reworking and working hard on my swing to kind of get back in positions where I can really play well. And so I feel like I've made big strides there. I wish I had hoped I had played better. But in the end, it'll hopefully pay off all the work that I did. So a grade.
We're going to give you, what do you think, B?
Yeah, somewhere around there,
nice.
Probably. Yeah.
Nice. Hell, I could have used more B's when I was in college, so don't beat yourself up about that. There's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong with B's. What is we have a lot of junior players, a lot of parents of junior players that listen to the podcast, and it's great when we can kind of glean information from players and coaches that are in it, just like you are. What is something that maybe surprised you about college golf?
I mean, it's definitely different from junior golf. You're put in with players who are all really good high school players, and put into college where everyone's really good. And so then you also have your team around you, which is a different environment, and traveling tournaments with the team. It's a really cool experience. I've enjoyed the fall, and it's definitely different from junior golf, but it's something I've enjoyed so far.
Sure. And, you have to balance schoolwork. You have to balance, work in the gym and then practice and everything like that. Who have you looked to on your team or in your support group at LSU to kind of help you with, managing time, managing, all the commitments that you have, and then you got to carve out a little bit of time to maybe go to a football game or, do a little bit of fun stuff. I mean, shit, it's college, so you got to have some fun.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you put that into place so you can kind of get everything done and then still enjoy the downtime?
I mean, our senior on our team, Louis, does a really good job of managing his time, I feel like. So I've kind of looked up to him a little bit. He's kind of, taught me, what to do, how to manage my time. When should I study? When should I leave time to work out and everything? So it's been helpful to be able to have somebody good to look up to like Louis.
And now you can't give him too much good credit here because, I mean, he's a senior and you are a freshman. So give me, I mean, you had to experience a little bit of freshman hazing when you got on campus. Anything you can share? I mean, let's not scare too many kids away from going to LSU or anything and put Louis in that spot. But, I mean, you're carrying the bags to the van, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't really anything, just, loading the van when going to tournaments and just little things like that.
Nice.
Nothing too bad, but yeah.
And how did you decide on LSU? I mean, like I said earlier, you're coming from a very small school in Hobe Sound, Florida. LSU is just a monster D1 in the SEC. I mean, how did LSU, how did you decide on LSU over, I'm assuming, many other schools you had to choose from?
Yeah. I've formed a really good relationship with my teammates in junior golf, and felt really comfortable with them. And then have a really good relationship with Coach Winstead. And I felt like he was my best option in trying to get my game to the next level.
Not to get back to what Cole said, but, Cole made a reference to kind of in junior, he committed very early to the University of Texas, and he kind of made a comment that in junior golf, he was able to almost act as like a secondary recruiter to the University of Texas. So is that kind of the culture at the high level of junior golf where kind of kids are, saying, hey, where are you going? And have you decided yet? Here's where I'm going. And you should think about that. Is that kind of what the culture is like at that level?
I think somewhat. I committed after Cole did, because Cole committed in 8th grade, I think it was.
Yeah.
I committed kind of middle of my sophomore year. So I felt kind of the same way. We could help try and figure out if we wanted a recruit or not, and if we wanted him, try and maybe persuade him a little bit, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a little bit of a culture that's sprung up from kids committing so early.
Sure. So they commit early, then they try and talk. So you decide on LSU. I've had coaches on the podcast, Coach Bratton at Oklahoma State, and even my college coach who is now at UConn. What are some of the things, they always talked about the things that they looked for in juniors and the characteristics that they found the most attractive in recruits. What are some of the things that you found, you found attractive in LSU, not just Coach Winstead, but the facilities themselves?
We have a really great facility at University Club where we're able to practice and get all the work we need. And then, I mean, the training facilities are great. Our trainers are great and help us try and get stronger. I just feel like we have a really good support system here around us where everyone's trying to get us to be better.
You don't have to share the gym with the football team, do you?
No, we don't.
Okay, because that would probably that's probably best for you guys, right? Because some of those O linemen are just picking up tires with one hand and flinging them across the place.
Yeah, definitely.
When is one of the times you walked on campus, walked past either a basketball player, football player, or another athlete, and you just were like, Oh my God, these are grown ass men on this campus.
I mean, you definitely walk by some football players and you're like, wow. Like, I wouldn't want to go up against, I wouldn't want to try and run full speed and try and tackle this guy.
You're like, I'm glad I hit a little white golf ball around and just, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Devin White a couple of times around campus. And he just looks fast and big.
What are what are some of the things that you like doing on campus? I mean, forget class for a second. I know your schoolwork is just really on your mind at all times. And let's forget about golf for a second. But you're on campus, you got time to kill, you got the guys around. What are you guys doing on campus?
On campus, I mean, if it's Saturday, we're definitely going to the football game.
Sure.
Other than that, we tend to just kind of hang out. We'll go to somebody's house, maybe watch a movie, or just kind of hang out, and kind of tend to just hang out because we're really busy during the weeks.
Sure. Well, you absolutely, before we get on to one of your next big tournaments, which I would imagine is just got to be at the top of your list coming up in a couple weeks, one of the things I noticed in my research on what you've been able to accomplish, you played in the inaugural Junior President's Cup. I find that it is kind of ironic that your captain was LSU alum David Toms. So you were committed to LSU before meeting David Toms. So did he know who you were when you walked onto the team? I mean, do you have a relationship with him?
Yeah, I met him at Junior President's Cup and kind of was able to form a relationship with him. And he was really nice to me during Junior President's Cup. And I've had a little bit of a relationship. So if I see him, I can talk to him and ask for his advice. So I feel like he's been a huge asset after meeting him at Junior President's Cup.
I mean, of course, you guys win the Junior President's Cup. You get the clinching point. If I remember correctly, the U.S. team beat the Internationals by, I think it was 14-10.
Yeah.
And so you got David Toms as your captain. Then you have Jack Nicklaus as the honorary captain. So you're hanging with Mr. Nicklaus. You're hanging with Mr. Toms. I would imagine in the team room there had to be some story shared. Just having those two greats in front of you for that limited amount of time.
Yeah.
Were you able to pick either one of their brains or get any stories from the tour, or what was one of the most memorable parts of the Junior President's Cup when you weren't on the golf course?
David Toms he told us some stories about Tiger in his prime, which was kind of cool to hear. It was really cool to pick Mr. Nicklaus's brain a little bit. I think we had lunch at the real President's Cup.
Sure.
With Mr. Player, Mr. Nicklaus, and they, told stories and gave us some advice. That was really cool to hear.
What was some of the advice that they gave you? I won't ask you to recount every single story, but what is some of the advice that they gave you?
I mean, it's just to work hard. Mr. Player is always famous for working really hard in the gym and on the golf course. And so that's something I really took away is at the end of the day, it's really about hard work.
Let's see. So you shared the team honors. You were there with Cole Hammer. You have all these guys on the President's Cup team with you. Was it more of a team bonding experience, or was it more of kind of maybe sizing each other up because you all are moving on to college? I mean, what was the team dynamic like?
I think it was more team bonding. We we all wanted to play really well with each other because we don't really get too many experiences on a team in golf. So I think we really enjoyed just bonding with each other and kind of being able to compete as a team against the international team, which was, I think, just a really cool experience for all of us.
Did you know any of the guys on the international team? Because, the Junior President's Cup, and it's the inaugural, it's the very first one. But, you don't hear a lot about, junior golfers in the first place, unless they're really lighting the world on fire. You don't hear a lot about, obviously, international juniors. Did you know any of these guys? Did you get along, in player dinners?
I knew some of them because a lot of them play the AJGA circuit a little bit.
Sure.
So I knew some of them pretty well. So I think knowing some of them, I think, was pretty cool because then again, it makes it a little different being able to compete against your friends.
Sure.
So I think that was another dynamic that was really cool. But yeah, we were able to meet some of the players that we didn't know and bond with them as well. So it was definitely a really cool experience.
Nice. Let's talk about the U.S. 4-ball this year. You played in that just basically right around the corner from your place in Hobe Sound and right up the street from me in South Florida, Jupiter Hills. You and Cole Hammer obviously won that. You defeated a couple guys that are buddies of mine, Mark Dahl and Chip Brook. You beat them in the finals.
Yeah.
You know, you've known Cole for a long time. It was natural for you guys to kind of get paired together since you were exempt through qualifying because you're top 400 rankings. You know, I asked him this question. I'm going to ask you the same question. You know, how much of an advantage did you feel that it was with your youth, with all the walking and the stress and strain of a tournament where, you know, you got to go through 36 holes of stroke play. You got to win 5 matches if you're going to take the title. Was that a big advantage for you guys?
It was definitely a long week. You know, playing 36 in a day often, and Jupiter Hills was not an easy course to walk by any means.
No, that Hills course is brutal.
Yeah. So I think it definitely played a little bit of a factor. Especially I think one of the matches I was so tired, and Cole just picked me up and told me, you know, let's get through this. But yeah, it was definitely a grueling week to have to go the whole 5 extra matches.
Sure. Well, you know, you win that, and then obviously it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for you guys to defend that next year at Bandon Dunes, because that's right around the time that hopefully you guys will be deep in an NCAA run. Does that kind of, I know you want to lead LSU to the NCAAs, but I assume it's kind of, you're kind of torn. I mean, I'm not going to ask you which one you'd want to choose to do, but you want to go to Bandon Dunes, don't you?
I mean, yeah, it would definitely be cool, but I think, you know, Cole and I both want to try and do the best for LSU and Texas as we can.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, you have a USGA championship on your resume. You know, that'll never get taken away from you no matter where your career goes. I'm assuming the professional ranks is kind of on your mind at some point after LSU, but you're getting ready for a pretty big tournament. You were able to capture an exemption by winning the Jones Cup. That gets you an exemption into your first PGA Tour event, the RSM Classic, later. Gosh, what is that, 2 weeks away?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to go down to Sea Island. How long has that been on your mind?
It's been on it for a while. I mean, it's kind of crazy. It's coming up so quickly, honestly, because, you know, I realized that after I won Jones Cup that I get that exemption, and then kind of been trying to prepare and get ready this whole time. So it's kind of crazy that it's only, I guess, I leave in 3-5 days. So it's crazy it's coming around this fast.
So, you know, most people listening are never going to play in a PGA Tour event. You're getting ready to play in your first. What has been one of maybe the most unexpected, you know, before you're going to go play in this? I mean, people will reach out afterwards, of course, as well. But what's been one of the most unexpected things that's happened to you before playing in your first PGA Tour event?
I'm not really sure. I've had a lot of requests for a caddy.
See, no, none from me. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to let you make that decision yourself. I can use a push cart, right? Or that's not going to work? Okay.
No.
So, what are your expectations for this event? I mean, you have to kind of, you know, keep things in perspective. It's your first one. What are you most looking forward to? What are your expectations?
You know, I just kind of want to try and take everything in. I want to try and get as much experience as I can, and, you know, try and pick the brains of some of the people I'm playing with, possibly, to see what it's like to play on the PGA Tour and play in professional golf. So I think just for this week, to try and just get as much experience as I can, and, you know, do as well as I can, and try and make the cut.
Sure, absolutely. Do you have practice rounds set up yet? Have you reached out to anyone?
Yeah, I haven't got them set up yet, but I'm planning on going up Sunday.
Okay.
So
And who's on the wish list for a practice round? If you get to pick your guys, who do you want to play with?
I might try and play with Sam Burns, I think.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense.
And then I played juniors with Joaquin Neiman. So I might try and reach out to him to see if he wants to play, but yeah, we'll see.
That's awesome. Well, we have a little segment here at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. Actually, we're going to kind of debut a different segment. You are going to be the guinea pig here, and I'm going to see how well this works. This thing just kind of came about, but it's I'm sure you're familiar with the game Would You Rather. So
yeah.
We definitely have a golf theme around it. So so let me ask you, would you rather play a golf tournament without golf tees or play a golf tournament without wedges?
Golf tees, probably.
Okay.
Let's
see. Would you rather get a free week badge to the Masters for you and 3 of your friends for the next 5 years, or would you rather play 1 round of golf at Augusta National with 3 of your ex-girlfriends?
Oh. That's a tough one. I would say maybe get the 3-week passes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, here's one last one. Would you rather rewrite the ending of Tin Cup so that Rory McIlroy wins the U.S. Open, or completely eliminate the existence of Caddyshack 2?
Probably rewrite the ending to Tin Cup.
Nice. See, I want to do that too. I watched that movie. I've seen it over 100 times, and the ending never changes. It's very depressing. So.
I know. Yeah, it's on Golf Channel all the time.
A couple weeks ago, or previously, I had Cole Hammer on the Back of the Range Golf Podcast, and I said, okay, your U.S. 4-ball teammate, Garrett Barber, give me a good Garrett Barber story, and he did provide me with a good one. So I'm going to allow you to reciprocate. So give me a good Cole Hammer story.
Well, at the 4-ball, so we were playing our last hole is the 9th hole in the village course. And so we had kind of a rough first round. Kind of got it back towards the end, but we didn't play our best. And so I wanted to go for the green to a back flag, and Cole had laid up into the bunkers short at the front of the green. And then I hit one really good out of the rough, and it flies over the green, and I'm dead. And he's in the front bunker, not really in a good spot. And so I just see him jump up and look at the flag, and then all of a sudden I see him hit it, and it takes one hop and spins back into the hole, burning our last hole. And so he just jumping around, really excited. I mean, that's kind of a Cole Hammer thing to do. He has a really good short game, so that's it, I guess.
There you go. All right. Well, Garrett, I really appreciate the time. We will definitely be tracking you for obviously the rest of the year at LSU, but specifically with what you're going to be doing at the RSM Classic. Enjoy that experience. Have fun with that. Enjoy the rest of LSU. Enjoy the rest of your season at LSU, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
And there you have it. Another great episode here at the Back of the Range. Special thanks to Garrett Barber. That was episode 48. The mojo of the Back of the Range podcast is a real thing. We sent it out before he played the RSM. Dude made the cut. So congrats for making the cut in your very first PGA Tour event. Thank you so much for listening to the Back of the Range. Hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you next time here at the Back of the Range.